Welcome to Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. In the next half hour, you'll obtain insights and tools to transform your life using the biblical principles found in the 12-step program. We believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience because we all have struggles in life. Struggles with addictions, food, depression, anxiety, and relationships, to name a few. You'll be encouraged to see how others have found a new way of life with hope for the future through life recovery. Your host is Steve Arterburn, founder of New Life Ministries and Women of Faith, author of over 100 books, and teaching pastor at Northview Church in Carmel, Indiana, one of the 20 largest churches in America. Steve is the co-editor of the Life Recovery Bible, the #1 selling recovery Bible. With over 3 million copies sold, this is the Bible given to inmates by Prison Fellowship and the Pew Bible for the Salvation Army. Now here's Steve.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. I am Becky Brown, sitting in for Steve Arterburn for Life Recovery Today. We're so glad you joined us. You know, recovery is for everyone, and we want to encourage you, if you've never explored the option of recovery, that this is what we're here for. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the law of confession. In the 12 laws of life recovery, we talk about these different laws and how they impact our lives. And the law of confession says the requirement of confession will result in healing. And in James 5, verse 16, it says, "Confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The earnest prayer of a righteous person has great power and produces wonderful results." It can be pretty tough to confess what you have done wrong, or, wherever your secret lies. And why do you think confession is so important? Well, healing will come as a result of this. There's a saying that we say in recovery that we're only as sick as our secrets. When we experience something like confession, we experience the freedom of knowing that we can move forward in our life, that our secrets don't hold us any longer. Not only do we confess them to God, but we share them with other people. In recovery groups or in meetings, we hear the powerful experiences that people have shared in those confidential meetings, and we learn that we're not the only ones that are struggling. We all have something that we're dealing with, or maybe not dealing with, and confession can be a powerful process to getting free and experiencing a life of recovery. As humans, we're driven to conceal our weaknesses. We've been wearing masks to protect ourselves, but a lot of times when we're not confessing what we've done wrong or what we feel shame about, it's like we wear our self in a mask. It's not even the true self, and it keeps us from really being known and loved. Confession can help us as we open up to what we would prefer to be left unknown, to be kept secret, but it instantly takes the power out of that secret when we share with somebody else, and we find out that we're not going to die as a result of sharing. Once people know our areas of struggle, they come alongside and can help us move forward, encourage us, and that is the power of confession. If you've never sat in a meeting, a recovery meeting, or even experienced the power of confession, maybe today is the day that you try that. When we come back, we're going to talk to Jake Harrell, who's going to experience or share his experience in recovery, and we're looking forward to hearing from him. We'll be right back.
Are you going through your struggles alone? Do you want someone to talk to help you through your pain? Do you feel like a failure when you relapse again, telling yourself, next time will be different? Don't walk this path alone anymore. Join a life recovery group today and be a person that your friends and family can be proud of. God created us to be in community, and we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country, and if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. Life Recovery brings recovery to you, right where you are. You'll take a journey with others to find healing and freedom. Whether you're looking to join a group or start one, New Life Ministries is here for you. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverytoday.net.
Welcome back. We're so glad you have joined us today. We want you to have a great experience with life recovery, and that's what we're here for. And my guest today is Jake Harrell, and we are so excited that you're here, Jake. Tell us a little bit about life before recovery.
Yeah. So I'm a 31-year-old. I'm kind of the stereotypical, I'm sure, story of porn addiction. So I was introduced as a teenager. It really didn't get bad until I was in college. Once I lost my virginity, I went to a state school. My wife said I was a heathen for going to a state school, not a Christian school. But through high school and college, I was addicted to porn and kind of lust, masturbation. And then most recently, it's still carried over as an adult. Believe that lie that, it's going to end when you get married, and it doesn't. Porn led to kind of flirting with people on social media because I couldn't find fulfillment. And COVID was a pain in the butt, and luckily the Lord's blessed me through that process. So, yeah.
So when you think back about when it first started, when were you first exposed to pornography?
I had a family member expose me when I was 12. Yeah. So,
and do you remember back then, were you confused? Were you scared? What?
No, it was more excitement. I think it's that the fruit that you can't have. Like you always want what you can't achieve. Like that fantasy is real, and I think that's more the addiction. Is that it's not necessarily the sex or the visual. I think it's more of the arousal that comes from it.
It's really powerful. A lot of times people will say, especially in the culture, they will, kind of dismiss that there is such a thing as pornography addiction.
Yeah. But
differently.
Yeah.
When it was at its worst, what kind of trouble did you get into?
Well, a lot of times I would spend, because I was hiding it from my wife, I was spending probably like 30 to 45 minutes in the bathroom, just spending time away from my family, and just all the horrible things that I was putting in my mind. That's probably the worst, because all this time I've spent with counseling now trying to get this out of my mind, and it takes so much time, and Satan has such a grip on you with shame through that process that you find yourself lying and doing whatever it takes to get the next basically arousal out of it.
You had mentioned that your wife thought that you going to a state school was like condemnation, but you were raised in a Christian home.
Yeah.
So it was before you even went to college.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And it just became more and more prevalent, and it had a bigger grip on you.
Yeah.
In your marriage, how has that impacted your life together?
It's a lot better now. Beforehand, we had, to be honest, we had issues with sex, and my wife couldn't figure it out, and a lot of it was just that I'm comparing her to fake, unrealistic things and unachievable things, and also just intimacy. Like I didn't spend time with her. I'd rather sit and watch episodes of Game of Thrones, I guess, than spend time with my wife.
Yeah.
And I was kind of immature, and I was both spiritually and, I guess, emotionally.
Yeah. One of the challenges I think that people don't understand is that with pornography addiction, it is an intimacy problem.
Yeah.
And so many times they think, well, how does that impact you with intimacy being a problem? It's because you don't let anybody know your true self.
Yeah.
And you're engaging with fake people.
Yeah.
Like there's no real connection there. And so it makes sense to me that, the big challenge was your wife and you could not connect.
Yeah.
There was this literal wall between the two of you.
Yeah.
As you have begun recovery, well, let me ask you this before I go there. What was your first step into recovery? How did you know I need help?
Okay. So I've known for a long time. My parents gave me Steve's book, Every Man's Struggle, and I was that guy that skimmed through it so my parents could quiz me, and I say, "Oh, I read it," and I didn't kind of read it. And I really knew going into college, getting into young adulthood, that I needed it, but I kind of decided I'd rather live life like this than to get recovery. And God eventually just kind of slapped me in the face. I was social media talking with a girl, and then my pastor found out, and it brought it to my family. And it was one of those things where God gave me exactly what I needed at the time without kind of completely wrecking my life to the point where I can hit rock bottom and go in, start a CR in that process of recovery.
Great. You know, it's so you were discovered.
It
wasn't.
I don't have willpower, and that's my fault for that.
Yeah. Well, and that's something that you're probably learning as you work through recovery. I think one of the big challenges with any addiction of any kind is making the decision that I want help.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do I get help? Where do I go for help?
Yeah.
And what a blessing in disguise that you were discovered.
Yeah.
What did you feel at the point where your pastor was like, hey, Jake, what is going on with you?
Yeah, I mean, there's shame and guilt involved with it. There is some relief, I guess. You talked earlier about like masks and stuff. Like, it's not like I go into any rooms and be like, hey, Jake, porn addict kind of a thing. So, I mean, there's certain people that knew of my problems, but even my wife didn't know the extent that I was talking to other people. So there is relief in kind of that letting go of all that weight that's bared on you in lying. Anybody can lie, but a lot of porn addicts, we can lie for days and days.
I know that we, in our workshop, Every Man's Battle, we talk about being fully known.
Yeah.
What is it like to be fully known?
Yeah.
And we talked literally about the power of confession.
Yeah.
And so you're recognizing, not everybody is trustworthy, even though that they may look like they are.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be further along on the other side of that, in this new place that you're in?
It's really great that it's brought a lot of healing and a lot of spirituality to me. So a lot of what I'm finding was my identity wasn't in Christ, and that's a huge problem, obviously. So being able to pull everything out of my life and putting in good things, like I'm reading more now because of this. I'm doing devotions, and the whole step of making amends has been huge. And I've brought back friends that, for whatever prideful reason, I wasn't talking to, and I can't even remember why.
You went from skimming
Yeah.
a book to really investing in your life and your brain and your thought process into it. So you mentioned the fourth step, and I think a lot of times that can be a challenge, that making amends. But you're finding that it is a good step.
I'm not perfect by any means. Like I still have family that I need to talk to, and there's a little bit of pride, and it's a slow working process. But yes, it's amazing, some of the healing, and just like I said, pride is a huge factor in this too, where it's like, I don't have a problem, or it's not my fault this happened. And a lot of times you just need to say, you know what, I'm sorry I did whatever you feel to.
Do you feel as though in the culture that porn addiction is an acceptable addiction?
Yeah, 1,000%. So I mean, it's to the point now where you can get porn on your watch if you want to. I mean, I'm a high school teacher. The like sexuality that's spread at younger age. I mean, there's fifth graders that I know that have been pregnant. Like to be pregnant at that age, that means you're exposed to something very badly at a very young age, because you don't just start in fifth grade. So.
It is really a challenge in our culture. We'll come back in a minute and hear more from Jake, but if this has been a challenge for you, we can help you. There is hope for a new life and for life post-addiction, but it's going to take you calling, you asking for help, and sometimes you do get discovered, but other times it can be your choice. And it can make all the difference in the world to you and your relationships. We'll be right back and talk to Jake some more.
It's hard to find a trusted friend when you're in crisis. Someone who's been there and understands, but who also has the training and skill to give you practical help. Family, friends, and churches want to help, but often they're not equipped to care for those dealing with problems like addiction and pornography, infidelity, anger, depression. New Life Ministries is here to provide help and hope in life's hardest places. We're not focused on making people feel better. We're focused on helping people do the work that will help them be better. At New Life, we have resources available to help you, like books, DVDs, CDs, workshops, and our network of licensed counselors. If you need help, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and begin your new life today.
Welcome back. We've been talking with Jake and the challenge of porn addiction in his life. But the good news is he has begun recovery and life is different now. You know, there's one thing that you and I talked about earlier when we were first connecting about this. And I asked, how long had it been? Yeah. How many days in recovery? Yeah. And what did you say?
So I don't necessarily keep track of the days. My wife keeps track of the days, and this is something big for her, which I love. She's invested, and that's a way for her to invest in this. But last week was actually 1 year for me.
Wonderful.
So it's 1 year porn free, and it's about 7 months masturbation free.
Wonderful.
And that's been the struggle more
Wonderful.
than porn. So,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So what are you learning through your recovery process that is making it possible to be sober and to be clean?
So I read Atomic Habits by James Clear, and there's a passage in there he talks about the person with the most self-control is the person that does it the least, has to use self-control the least amount of times. And that's kind of my philosophy now. So I have and we talked about this on the phone, I have an iPhone flip. A lot of you might not know what this is. This is kind of prehistoric. I'm a high school PE teacher, so you can't imagine how much harassment I get every day for having a flip phone. So I have a flip phone. I don't do social media anymore. Even my TV at home, I'm kind of a nerd. So I like watching certain TV shows, but I have them locked now to where my wife has to, if I want to get on HBO to watch whatever show, it's not for her to say, you can't watch this show. It's more just built-in accountability with my wife, because I don't necessarily trust myself to have full access. So it's just kind of limiting the access I have.
So you know what's interesting about that? We hear a lot of times for men who are going in or have been in recovery for porn addiction, the restrictions that they put in their life. And people who are outside of recovery think, well, why would you want that? Yeah. But what is the benefit of having those things in place for your life?
Yeah, so obviously, like for me, technology, I have a school computer which is fully countable. I don't have my own computer or anything like that. A lot of it is just that it'd be the same thing for an alcoholic to go into a bar every day. Like porn addiction and lust, all those things, you can see it anywhere. You can go anywhere and see it. So the further away from it you can get, even though you see it on a normal day, the less likely you're going to have reactions to it. It's trying to get that stuff out of your mind versus putting it back in.
You had mentioned that you're going to recovery meetings. Yeah. And so how often or what's your routine for your work in your recovery? For a long time, so after Guests Getting Discovered, I was going daily. I'm a football coach, and I've worked over the summer being a teacher, so I try to get there twice a month going in. I found that really it's the group of people more than it is the building. So being able to, if I miss, being able to call and talk to people. And really this has become a platform, even the flip phone, I've used it as a spiritual thing. Just someone asked me why I have a flip phone, I can say, hey, I'm a religious person. There's a lot of garbage I don't want to be involved in. Like, are you a religious person? And then that's just like an instant in for a conversation, instead of me just kind of like making up lies or pouting. And that's what I was for a long time there. Now I've kind of used it as a platform, like this 12-step. So you've gotten some freedom in even the routine for your recovery.
Yeah.
But it's just it's been integrated into your life.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, that's what we get. A lot of times we get questions about, people will say, well, I'm not addicted to anything. I don't really need recovery. Yeah. But recovery really is for everybody. Yeah. And it's really kind of going back to that comment you made about the person who's in control is actually more free. And it's literally ordering your life in a way that benefits you and then ultimately will benefit other people. What has been the biggest benefit for your marriage in recovery?
As I said before, the discipline has been really great. So being more, like, I read more, I listen to books on tape when I drive now, being spiritually more mature, and really just being more open and vocal with my wife. That's been a big thing that we've been working on. A lot of this guilt and shame doesn't allow me to express with my wife, and then she wants to fix things if I do express. So it's finding that balance of like, hey, this is how I'm feeling, or this is what made me feel. I still love you, but it's just, that's how I am at the moment.
I think the challenge too, when you're in recovery and you're working your program, you are feeling a lot of things for the very first time. Like, because, being in an addiction, you're numbed out. Like, your life has just been kind of snubbed out. So now that you're feeling all of these things, it's a whole new relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, there just comes like the beauty that like I'm loving my wife for the first time again. So you just think of all these moments. Like I was pursuing my wife when we were dating, and then obviously the older you get, the kind of less pursuing you do. Now I have this like love and intimacy that I didn't originally have. I was kind of living vicariously through my porn, my addiction. Now I can love my wife the way I should have all along.
That's
and it's helped her out a lot. My wife, she kind of knew something was happening, obviously, but she just couldn't prove it. And she gained a lot of weight. It was a lot of stress on her. And through this now, she's lost, since January of this year, she's lost like 40 pounds. She's in counseling too, and it's worked out really well.
A lot of times, because we work with a lot of women who've experienced betrayal trauma, and that's what you're describing. Yeah. And there is that crazy making when you said she knew something was wrong, but she couldn't pin it. Yeah. And then once that kind of comes to the surface, there is a freedom that can come into the relationship, hopefully, if the person who struggled with the addiction is willing to take the steps to do whatever it takes to be safe, to continue doing the work, and create a new life together. Yeah. And you guys have begun to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of that counseling has been very helpful as well. Eventually, counselors talking about codependency, getting her through the steps of that as well. Because, I mean, she's worried so much about me, and it's time to kind of focus on her.
Right. So. Yeah, that is part of the process with any person who's in addiction. The people that they're in relationship with have got to do their own work in order to have that healing. Because even if it were someone who's struggling with alcoholism, we talk about how people who are in those relationships are the ones that will call into work the next day when the person's hungover, or they'll make sure that there's beer in the fridge so that that person doesn't lose their mind, because there's not booze there. But I think it's a different thing when she's going to have to resist the urge to put you in another bubble. Yeah. That would be her new job. And so that's where her work in recovery is going to begin. Jake, what would you say to somebody who may be where you were?
Yeah. I mean, I would say if you think you don't have a problem, but you're looking at porn, you got a problem. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times I found that if you're not willing to talk about it to other people, not that if you're doing it and you're talking about it, it's right. But a lot of times we justify it because society says it's okay. So, it's normal to do this. Guys doing guys, all those things. But I would challenge you and what someone said to me was like, you know what? Don't look at porn and masturbate for 6 months. See if you can do it. You can't do it, you got a problem. And that's something I did, and I couldn't last probably like 4 days. I cried like a little baby, and so it's one of those things where find a recovery group in your area and just talk about it. Start that process.
That's wonderful. One of the biggest challenges we all have is to ask for help, to really seek to have the best life that God has for you. And Jake, I just appreciate your candid sharing, your confession, and the hope that you give to someone who's watching who may be in that struggle and they just don't know where to begin. Yeah. So I hope that if you're that person, that you will call and we can help you. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'll get you connected with a counselor or even a group in life recovery, and you can begin your walk of freedom today.
Life recovery isn't just about making the courageous choice to give up an addiction or dependency. It's a journey towards health, wholeness, and becoming your very best you. If you need resources to help you in your journey, we can help. There are many life recovery resources that you can do on your own, with a group, or with your church. We have Bibles, workbooks, and devotionals that you can use to work your recovery right where you are. That's the beauty of life recovery. To learn more or to get the Life Recovery Bible or any other life recovery resource, visit liferecoverytoday.net or call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Isn't it amazing to hear the power of the after story? You know, Jake talked about how he was stuck in a cycle of shame and sin and addiction, and now he has the ability to experience a full and free life. And that's what we want for all of you. You know, life recovery is for everyone. It's not just for someone who is them. You know, a lot of times people will say it's for those people over there. There may be something that you're struggling with that you need some help. You know, when we talk about the steps, they are a process of getting free. Literally, it's a sanctification process. We've talked about that many times on the program. In step 4, you know, we also learn about how we need to make amends. We need to make things right. But a challenge a lot of times is our family of origin. It's had influence on who we are today. And I think you heard that in Jake's story, that an uncle had exposed him to pornography at a young age. And therein lies the problem. Some of us are afraid to expose family members, whether, you know, we think that they're perfect or maybe we blame them for everything. But, you know, our family of origin can teach us a lot about our future and our decisions of how we want to live our lives. Others may tend to avoid responsibility because you blame your family. You know, you could maybe had a father or mother who struggled with alcoholism, and that's the reason why you're that way. So, you know, you're not going to make any movement towards freedom yourself. Whatever the case, when we think about our own life, we also need to deal with our family and the effects that our family has had on us. To recognize whether it's been wounds that have gone unhealed. A lot of times we hear about father wounds that people have because they either were, you know, really wounded by the dad or just that vacant heart. But in Nehemiah, it says, our ancestors refused to turn from their wickedness. So now today we are slaves in the land of plenty that you gave our ancestors for their enjoyment. We serve conquering kings at their pleasure, and we are in great misery. It's all right to admit the truth about what brought us into the bondage, but it's not all right to use it as an excuse for our wrong choices or staying in the bondage. Our relatives might be partly responsible, but we're responsible for this day forward. If this describes the place that you're stuck, begin your life recovery today and be free and become the person that God had created you to be. Give us a call. We can help you. You can also look for groups in your area at liferecoverygroups.com. We're so glad you joined us today. God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Life Recovery Today with Stephen Arterburn. We hope this program has helped you integrate God's truth and wisdom into your recovery journey. This program is brought to you by New Life Ministries, and it's your support that keeps this program on the air. When you contact us for any reason, be sure to let us know that you watch on NRB. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to liferecoverytoday.net. Please join us again next week for more Life Recovery Today.